This podcast is brought to you by Penji. Penji is a creative subscription service that gives you access to pre-vetted, agency-trained creatives from all over the world. From graphic design to illustrations to social media management and web development, it's all included for one monthly price. It's time to say goodbye to the hassle of searching for top-notch creative talent. With Penji, you get quality and consistency delivered right to your inbox every day. Carefully crafted for you by humans. So meet your new creative team today. Head over to penji.co for more and enter the coupon code located within the podcast show notes.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us on the Fully Managed podcast. Thank you, Chris, so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Shannon. I'm excited to chat with you.
Thank you. Me as well. Okay, so today we are going to start with a game, get our creative juices flowing. This is one of my favorites. I hope that you enjoy it. Okay, so this game is called Market Me This. So I'm going to give you an absurd product, and you are going to market it to me. You can choose any, obviously marketing is very in-depth, so you can go into any kind of part that maybe you enjoy the most that you would use to market this product, like any step or even just like a loose outline of what you would think, just like after I tell you what it is. Does that sound good?
Cool. Sounds like fun. Let's do it.
Alrighty. Okay. This product is caffeinated toothpaste.
So my answer should be strategic based on how to market caffeinated toothpaste.
Correct.
Okay. So you would most likely want to find people who have shown interest in caffeine-oriented or habitually tangential to caffeine consumption types of behaviors. Build your audience. Have an image that will survive the attention span of 5 seconds. So be it image or video. And it would have to be really around the idea of caffeine. So a lot of energy, big eyes, big volume, productivity. Yeah, that's how I would do it.
I think that's great. What would you think would be like the interest group that would like this product? Just off the thoughts.
Well, I can say as someone who has purchased caffeinated tangential products, I've purchased caffeinated, for example, shaving cream. And so I would think, yes, absolutely.
They make that?
They make caffeinated many things, apparently. So the way I would target myself there, let's say, is to find different interests that I might have demonstrated. So I might have liked Starbucks. I might have liked another type of coffee brand or something to that effect. It's a little loose, but, coffee is like air. Millions of people consume it. So it's hard to be very specific there, but that's the best approach that I would have.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I think that caffeine is kind of like an essential drug that many people have incorporated in their lives. So I feel like it's almost a no-brainer that, if you're doing what's good for your dental health, most people will also be brushing their teeth. So I think that it's kind of a good transition of like, I think I set you up with a good product because sometimes I kind of give
I am
something.
the target customer of
Yeah, you are the target customer, so you really knew what was going on. But I appreciate you participating in my game. I think that you did a really good general outline of what you would do for this product, and I think it would work if you did it in real life. And I don't think that exists right now. So if you want to capitalize upon that product, go right ahead. You can steal my idea.
I want to say, all jokes aside, I appreciate the line of questioning because at the end of the day, I and my company, we often pride ourselves on, being passionate about the process, about the funnel, not so much vanity that we can market anything or we can sell water to a well, though that may be true. It's more about the passion that we have for exactly the game that you've offered. So I know you're making it fun, but I do appreciate this type of exercise.
Yeah, no, I like it. I think that there's a way of, thinking Something that I experienced when talking with a lot of different marketers on the show is that people kind of get their inspiration from everywhere. And I think that maybe trying to do an exercise where like you're marketing a product that like you maybe would never have experience with, or like you're marketing something that isn't in your wheelhouse, so to speak, it almost opens your mind to like different strategies in which you can go about in your everyday work. So I like it for that reason as well.
Certainly, and I would argue, everyone has their own approach as to how to problem solve. So I can only speak to my company's approach. But at the end of the day, we try to stay rooted in the methodologies, and it's really the niche vertical or product is often less relevant so much as the standing pat on the approach. Mm-hmm. And our approach is to find a target market, knowing the variables that we have to play with and the filters we have to play with, and thinking about the best ways to accomplish engagement. Mm-hmm. So the specific thing you just shared is an ad. We need someone to care in 5 seconds. So I'm going to presume big, loud, stop, attention. But that isn't the case for every brand. Just happens to be this B2C example.
No, I appreciate that. And I think that, yes, there's an outlook in which, you go about something strategically in the same way in order to market it. It doesn't mean like there's necessarily like a one size fits all for every brand or product or service, but it means more like the way in which you're thinking about it and problem solving might be the same, but the outcome might be very different from brand to brand.
Yes, and I would argue many people hold the title of strategist, but there's probably depths of quality and experience that come into a refined strategy. So we have fun, playing these types of games in our own office too. So very serendipitous of you, Shannon.
Well, I can give you a list of them if you'd like to have like a fun Friday. But yeah, it's one of my favorite games. I do think it's like fun to think outside of the box. But I want to get into more about, you've already been talking about iExcel and everything that like you guys do about strategy, but I would love to hear just about you, like kind of tell us a little bit about yourself, like how you got here on like your entrepreneurial journey, like what's it like now, like you're working day to day, and kind of like maybe what you're looking for in the future.
Sure. So I'll start by giving the elevator pitch as to what my company even is and entails. So my name is Chris Rodriguez. I'm the CEO and founder of a digital marketing agency called iExcel. We are based out of the greater DMV, DC, Maryland, Virginia market, with significant history and grips on the New York City market as well. We are sourced from a lot of my career experiences, which is to say, be it B2B or B2C, be it SaaS or transactional types of funnels. I have made a career and a passion on solving digital marketing problems for be it my employers at the time or my clients, and now the company's larger order clients. We keep a book of about 15 to 20 clients at the moment. I'd like to say that we are boutique, white glove, immersive. We are either extensions of your marketing organization, or for smaller to mid-size orgs, we often are the marketing organization. And, if I were to give an analogy as to where do we stand in this big game of agency life, I like to sort of score us as in the middle class of agencies, which is to say that we've definitely hit a few reputable and important milestones. There's certainly an MRR to our business, a repeatability, a predictability. And at the same time, we're still very scrappy and, hustling, figuring it out every day. We're on our way to 7 figures, but not there yet. So a little bit of just placing us in some transparency for those viewers and listeners. So yeah, like I said, we're in the middle class, is how I like to think about it. So an exciting time, a lot of hard work to get us here, and yet nothing but green field in front of us. And I would say a little bit more about me specifically. Yes, at the 30,000 foot view, iExcel is my baby. It's my life's mission. For those of you who really know me, you know that my nickname is actually Excel, not because of Microsoft, because of the hip hop and entertainment industry. And so, yes, this is my life's work. And it has grown way bigger than little old me to represent a mentality. It is a sentence, subject, verb, right? iExcel, period. And it represents a mentality. It represents how I approach my career, how I approach the passion for and the art of digital marketing. Again, puzzle solving, problem solving. And people who work for iExcel and people who work with iExcel grow to understand that that is the culture, that is how we think, that is the DNA of the company. As much as we are very comfortable and confident and accomplished, and that is to be respected, we also lead first with humility. We know what we know and we know what we don't know. And I want everyone, whoever works with us, either on the client side or on the team side, to know that that's the culture and the DNA of this company. As for me specifically, I come from very humble beginnings. I am a New York City Puerto Rican whose parents were, born on the island of Puerto Rico. So I am first generation U.S. To be very clear, Puerto Rico is a property of the U.S., but it has a unique experience to where we have an immigrant upbringing of that type. I'm very proud of my background, and it has caused me to have, as I like to say, the battery in my back. It gives me the inspiration to, whether folks that I came up with know it or not, I'm here to do it for all of us. So this is not an if path, but a when path. And I use it as a powerful wind in my sails. First kid out of college in my family, first kid to own a mortgage. So yeah, I'm of that type.
That's incredible. I think that's like, it's very important to celebrate those accomplishments. And I think that it's also important to, I think have that inspiration of not if, when, because you're just looking towards the future and you're excited about it. Can you kind of talk about what is the when, like what is your ultimate goal with iExcel? Because I know that there's a lot of people that think that everyone kind of shares the same goal with an agency of like get to this certain figure or get to this certain place. But I think a lot of people like where their agencies are at when they're not at that like peak achievable, like numbers, so to speak. Is there something that you have a vision for in the future that is very like specific to you?
Well, I'll say I am very focused and have horse blinders on for getting my company to a state where we are maturely managing our entire roster of clients with all processes required in tow, built, tested, and getting to a state where, as I like to say, I just need to quote unquote be myself, which is to have conversations just like this. Just be out there sharing my story, explaining what it is that we represent, and leading in that way. That would be a new phase of the company. Right now, I've got 1 foot in, 1 foot out, and what I mean by that is we are getting to a level of maturity where the CEO can do the CEO thing, but maybe not 100% there yet. Getting my hands dirty with projects where necessary, where I need to lean into my expertise. So I would say whatever that next phase shall be, the part that I know will be clear is that this is no longer a beautiful mold of clay, as I like to say. The refinements on that have happened, and in fact, it is a one level more mature operation. That could take months, that could take years. I'm here for the patients. We're a bootstrapped company. And so, I will say that I am appreciative of, I don't want to say this as to imply otherwise, but the lack of investor pressure. I'm not afraid of a hard day's pressure, but the lack of investor pressure allows you to build the company as you see fit and to have the patience that you believe is appropriate as a leader. So I'm here for that milestone whenever that shall be.
No, I appreciate that mentality too, because I do think that having investor pressure is kind of it's not always working in like the best interest for an agency or a company or a business, because sometimes you have a vision for what it might be, but it becomes something else based off of, the needs and wants of others, which is obviously somewhat understandable. That's what comes with having that, involvement. But it's just nice to see when you're just excited for the next step and being able to maybe like take your hands off a little bit, whereas many people are sometimes just looking for a certain figure or like a number that kind of proves themselves, rather than like seeing the success in like what you're doing on your day to day, like what, maybe you're focusing on what makes you happier, like what you really like doing, and having like that kind of luxury of like not doing everything all the time.
Yeah, I would say that I'm less focused, though clearly every leader would be thinking about, I guess the end game, what that might look like or when that might occur. That's natural to have that in your calculus, but I find empowerment in just focusing on doing it right. And I don't necessarily mean in the fluffy, sort of emotional way. I mean more so there is a certain best practice on how to build a refined, mature agency, and I and my team are capable of it. It's not beyond us strategically or academically. It's just a matter of the brute force and getting it done while also not rushing it. And so that could be 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, 24 months before I can pull up and say, all right, this is the vision that I sought. And whatever the number might be of evaluation at that time, it will sit well with me in my head and my heart, because it was the fullest version of what it was that this could be. There's no regret that it wasn't fully seen through. If that number is 2 million, 5 million, 10 million, 15 million is believe it or not, less relevant. And I will say that I am of the Gary V mentality here as it relates to patience. Not everyone has to be on the founder's timeline. It's my job to have the vision, and the vision is partially the patience. So I'm here for that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that outlook, because it is something that I think, obviously, as a founder, CEO, whatever someone might be in the place of in leadership for an agency, you're looking at numbers because that is part of it. But I think that having your goal surround something that is more less tangible, but more like you feel actually that you're in a good place and that you like where you are, rather than just like having a number as a goal is, I think having a number as a goal, even though it's a very tangible thing, is much more arbitrary in a way that, okay, I see this number and I've reached this number and I've achieved this, but what my day-to-day looks exactly the same. And I am still stressed as much as I was when I started, or I'm still this or that. And I think that when you work towards a goal, you should also feel good about where you are when you have that goal rather than just feel good about the achievement of that goal, if that makes sense.
Sure. And also, part of it is probably a little bit of my desire to complete, right? If anyone listening has either built an agency or any type of business that has so many interwoven moving parts, it is a little bit of, it can be overstimulation. It can be analysis paralysis. It can be too much for certain people. And I just want to be sure that as I've opened the door to that large matrix called this big puzzle of building an agency, that I see it through. And honestly, if someone were to offer me life-changing money, of course I might change my tune, but the truth is that I would feel incomplete because I can actually see the steps in front of me that need to happen. And so to not do them or not to focus on them would be almost unfulfilling.
Yeah.
I don't mean to be too fluffy, but
no, I can completely understand that. Because it does make sense when you're working towards a goal and like maybe it's kind of almost completed for you, it feels almost wrong. Like you kind of what's the word for it? For lack of a better phrasing, like a cop out. Like kind of like like I could have I was really it's excited to see when you achieve a goal in which you worked really hard for it and did like everything that you wanted to do in order to do so. Like you feel much more accomplished. Whereas like I wouldn't want to say like getting like selling out is necessarily always a bad thing. A lot of people are looking towards that when they create an agency actually. So I think that it's just like differentiating goals of like what, the end is supposed to look like for everyone. But I think that I can understand why it would be so much more fulfilling to reach a certain point completely by yourself and your team rather than, someone coming in and offering you whatever sum of money in order to get to this monetary goal.
Sure. And there's also the idea that some of this is intertwined with the increased valuation of the company. The more patient you are, the more infrastructure you build, the more refinement to contracts, process documentation, the larger your valuation. So those two things are, they're quite aligned to simply see through the vision of all of these aspects that inherently are adding to the valuation.
Exactly. If you were to, if you were to get to this goal, right, what is it that you would like to be doing personally? Like what is your favorite part of the process that you would just like to do if you had the luxury of being able to just do that?
Oh, meaning like if, I guess, the iExcel story was completed and I'm now, I guess, a free agent, for lack of a better term, what would I like to do?
Maybe more like you get to a position with iExcel where you have the luxury of choosing what you do on your day-to-day rather than maybe like managing every step of the process, if that makes sense.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I think I would like to focus on sharing the good word of demand generation and giving my perspective, which, though often aligned with many of the thought leaders of the space because I see the same temperature check as I might have a unique spin or delivery or view on it. And I do think there's a space for that. I try to simplify complexities. I try to be direct in an indirect world. And, I do think that there's a space for that voice and perspective. And part of me wants to inspire those who are similar to me. As often as I've made my way through this space, I have more often than not felt as an outlier, and I don't always mean in a good way. And so there are people like me that need to know that they can do it too. So I want to lean into that side of things. And I'm speaking a little in abstracts because I don't necessarily know what that fully means, but I know that at its core, if I am freed up to do what I think is right, then what I think is right is to share the message of demand gen with a 2025, 2026 view from a guy like me. Less specifically me, more what a guy like me represents. Yeah.
I can definitely understand feeling that way, especially something that I noticed in the agency space, which I do believe is getting better. Let me know if you think differently. But it wasn't always really like an inclusive space of like agency owner to agency owner or like founder to founder kind of thing. I think that it was kind of had this level of secrecy of like, I don't really necessarily want to let people know what I'm doing or how I'm doing it, because then I don't know, the worry of they'll replicate it and do it the same way and steal my clients. I don't really know necessarily. I think that's an interesting way to think about things. But I think that over time, especially with like, content like this, I think that people are feeling more comfortable in like when they're feeling successful in what they're doing, sharing why that is and how. And I think like the idea of thought leadership entirely has kind of changed that a little bit in the agency world in general. And I really do love seeing more of an acceptance of, sharing helpful tips and advice, because everyone has a different way of showing it. Everyone has a different way of telling it. Even if they're similar strategies, there's like a way of reaching different people. And I completely resonate with that.
Yeah. And I'll give you an anecdote. So I just got off a call recently with a potential prospect that ended up not fitting for various reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Very natural for me to make sure that I add value. That might not be everyone's perspective, but even with the awareness that we will not be doing any level of business transaction, I still provided a full-on playbook for exactly my thoughts as to what you need to do, separate from having anything to do with me or iExcel or the idea that we could hypothetically do business. And the reason why I mention that is because I'm passionate about solving the puzzle. So why not share that? And the second part is, whether it's due to expertise and genuine like skills that one might not have versus one does have, that is fair and true. But the other part is any of this stuff, even if it's not difficult to learn, it's difficult to accomplish because of all of the moving parts. Not that the specific concept of a specific digital tactic is beyond someone. The sum of the parts is sometimes just a headache to do, or sometimes it just takes thousands or hundreds of reps that person X doesn't have that I or my team might. So I'm never afraid of sharing ideas, tactics, approaches. The same way in a up and coming SaaS founder, my perspective would be, shouldn't care at all about sharing ideas. First of all, no one's going to stop what it is that they're doing with their busy life to stop and take your supposedly incredible idea and suddenly stop what they're doing and only focus on what you're doing at the depth and the passion and the gusto that you would have for your idea. Mm-hmm. So no one's going to ever steal your idea, with few exceptions. Maybe the Zuckerberg example, but that's a dramatized movie. Doesn't always happen that way. So I'm trying to give good energy to the universe.
Yeah, and I really love that and support that, because I do think that it's like gatekeeping knowledge when everyone can kind of get it nowadays is not like, there's not really, I don't think, and this sounds kind of crass, I guess, but I don't think anyone's really unique. Like everyone does things almost similarly in the agency world especially, but they just do it, they just spin it in a different way. And that's okay. Like, that's not copying another person. That is just doing, like, being passionate about what you're doing, and you do it the way you do it. And you can explain that to anyone, but the reason that clients come to you is because they want you to do this for them. There are so many people that can look up marketing strategies on the internet. Almost everything that you could do is already there. But
Right.
you're looking for an agency or a company or another business to do it and be an extension of your business because you don't want to do it yourself. Like, you,
Yeah,
or you
and
can't.
part of it is the idea of having a trusted expert. And as an agency owner, I have often felt the historical experiences of either my clients or my prospects influencing our very chat in the first place. So people who have, let's say, had bad experiences with agency owners suddenly believe all agencies are bad.
Yes.
Or those that have seen agencies that have gone above and beyond on scope creep, suddenly have that as an expectation that is standardized and normalized. So it goes both ways. It's my job to just continue to be myself and offer the ideas and advice as I see it. And those that will gravitate towards the iExcel energy and culture, whatever shall be is how I think about it.
I think that is a perfect way to end because it was very succinct and encompassing everything that you already mentioned so far. But this was an incredible time. I really appreciate you joining me today. I really appreciate also your wholesome and almost like righteous perspective on how to do things, because I kind of hope that I see this more often in the agency space. It's something that I really hold dear, and I think of importance to do right by your clients, but also do right by kind of everyone, like even clients that don't end up working out. Knowledge, we're here to make knowledge accessible, which is why we do this podcast in the first place. So I appreciate you sharing your perspective.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. And I'll just end to summarize what you just said with one of my favorite phrases that I hope encompasses the vibes that I've given today. Respect the game. Respect the game. The game has spoken rules, unspoken rules. It is a lifestyle. There are ethics involved. Respect the game, respect the players. The universe, as big as it is very small. Just do the right thing, and whatever the results will be is most likely what was meant to be.
I agree. I really appreciate you sharing, and thank you so much for joining me today. I had a really lovely time. Thank you everyone for watching. Please check out Chris and iExcel in the description, and I appreciate you guys listening. I hope that we can spread some more goodness into the world. Thank you.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Fully Managed, brought to you by Penji. Check out the show notes to learn more about today's guest, and to learn more about Penji, the human-first creative subscription service, head over to penji.co. And by the way, if you're still listening, it would mean the absolute world to us if you were to share this podcast with a friend, and of course, subscribe.